So you just jumped into Blue Protocol Star Resonance, you're staring at the class selection screen, and you're thinking, which one of these is gonna make me look like a god? Here's the thing. Picking your class in an MMORPG. That is a hard choice, right? Pick wrong, and you're either re-rolling in 20 hours or suffering through content you hate. But hey, you clicked on this video, which means you're smart. Because today, I'm breaking down every single class in Blue Protocol. Their strengths, their weaknesses, their playstyles, and most importantly, which one fits your vibe. Whether you're a brain-dead button masher, a 200 IQ strategist, or somewhere in between, I got you. Let's find your main. All right, let's get into the meat of it, the classes. Blue Protocol breaks it down into 3 roles, nice and simple: DPS, tank, and support. On the DPS side, you've got 4 options: Marksman, Wind Knight, Frost Mage, and Stormblade. Tanks, you get 2 choices, Heavy Guardian and Shield Knight. And for all you support mains out there, yes, you exist, there's Verdant Oracle and Soul Musician. That's 8 classes total. Now here's where it gets spicy. Each class has 2 subspecs. Think of them like flavors of the same class. We'll dive deep into those in a second, but trust me, this is where your playstyle really starts to matter. Quick quality of life note, you can swap classes whenever you want. In town, in the field, literally anywhere except mid-combat. So if you're getting destroyed and think, maybe I should have gone tank, well, you can't rage swap in the middle of a boss fight. Nice try though. Now leveling. It's pretty standard MMO stuff. Kill monsters, complete quests, do your dailies. The game's designed so you'll hit level cap just by playing through the story and doing daily missions. No crazy grind required. But here's the best part, and this is huge. Class levels are shared. That means if you hit max level on Marksman and decide, you know what, I want to try Frost Mage, boom, you're already max level. No restarting from level 1, no regrinding the same content, you just switch and go. It's beautiful. There's also a whole skill tree system we could talk about, but we'll save that for another video. Today we're focusing on helping you pick your main, so let's talk subclasses, because this is where your choice actually matters. This is what defines how you play. Let's break it down one by one. Let's kick things off with the Heavy Guardian. Your classic rock-solid tank with a 2 out of 5 difficulty rating. So if you're new to tanking, this is your gateway drug. Heavy Guardian is all about summoning literal rocks to shield your team. Think of yourself as a walking fortress. You eat physical damage for breakfast, you block attacks like it's nothing, and you slap enemies back with counterattacks. You're the reliable friend everyone wants in their party. Here's how the class works. Your unique resource is called Rage. You start with 100 points. You use it for special attacks and your big moves. And here's the fun part. Every time you take damage, you get 2 rage back. Yeah, you literally get stronger the more enemies beat on you. There's a 0.5 second cooldown, but still, pain equals power. Very anime. Now, Heavy Guardian has 2 specs, and they play very differently. The Earth Fort spec. This spec is for players who heard tank and thought, okay, but what if I also did damage? You use Shield Bash as your main move, and here's the deal. Your shield doesn't just block damage, it gives you a damage buff while you're shielded. So you're not just surviving, you're punishing enemies for even trying. This build focuses on maximizing your shield strength, boosting rage generation so you're always active, hitting like a truck with moves like Shield Bash and Crush Heart Collapse. It's perfect if you want to tank and see your name on the DPS charts. You'll still need healer support, but you're dealing serious damage while staying alive. The block spec. This is for the masochists who want to stand in everything and just not die. You specialize in counter crush, and blocking becomes your entire identity. We're talking near constant blocking, insane block chance, and you actually heal when you block successfully. This build is all about invulnerability through blocking, rage regeneration on blocks, reducing incoming damage to basically nothing. This spec excels in high-pressure situations, big mob pulls, brutal boss mechanics, anything that would normally delete a player. You just stand there, blocking, menacingly. So should you play Heavy Guardian? If you're planning to do party raids or team content, absolutely. You're exactly what every group needs. Want more damage while tanking? Go Earth Fort spec. Want to be an immortal brick wall? Go block spec. But, and this is important, if you're planning to do a lot of solo content and still want that tanky feel, Heavy Guardian might not be your best bet. For that, you'll want to check out Shield Knight instead. Alright, now let's talk about Shield Knight, the other tank, and honestly, this one's way more interesting. Shield Knight is what I call the self-healing defender. Unlike Heavy Guardian who needs a team, Shield Knight is like, I'll do it myself. You gain defensive resources through rapid attacks, and you've got built-in healing. This is the solo player's tank dream. Here's how the resources work. You've got 2 resource systems going on. Holy Sigils. You start with 5 of these bad boys. You consume them for special attacks and some of your big moves. Each one you use goes on a 10-second cooldown and generates 10 photon energy, so you're constantly cycling through them. Photon energy caps at 100, and you use this for certain expertise skills. Think of it as your secondary gas tank that fills up as you burn sigils. It sounds complicated, but once you get the rhythm, it feels smooth. Now, Shield Knight has 2 specs, and the difference is pretty significant. The recovery spec. This is the spec that made Shield Knight famous. Your special attack is Valor Bash, and this thing turns you into a self-sustaining monster. Here's the loop. You maintain Lightforged Body, which absorbs half of all incoming damage. You cast Judgment to restore your lost HP. Rinse and repeat, you're basically unkillable in solo content. No healer needed. You just sustain forever. Boss fight taking 10 minutes? Doesn't matter. You'll outlast them. This spec is perfect for solo players, learning boss mechanics safely, not relying on teammates to keep you alive. The Shield spec. This spec uses Vanguard Strike as your special attack, and it gives you a holy barrier instead of healing. You get increased max HP, more skill resources to work with, still have Lightforged Body and Judgment for sustain. Sounds great, right? Here's the catch. This spec is rough early game. The talent curve means it doesn't really come online until you've leveled it up. And even at endgame, you need tight resource management to maximize your output. But if you master it, this spec offers way more versatility and damage potential than recovery spec. So, should you play Shield Knight? Here's my honest take. Recovery spec is the go-to for solo content, early to mid-game, players who want consistent, reliable tanking, learning the game without stress. Shield spec is for endgame players who've mastered the class, people who like high-skill ceiling gameplay, maximizing damage output as a tank. My advice? Start with recovery spec, or even a different class entirely if you're new. Don't touch shield spec until endgame unless you really know what you're doing. The talent leveling curve will just frustrate you early on. We'll dive deeper into talent systems in another video, but for now, if you want that self-sufficient, solo-friendly tank life, Shield Knight recovery spec is calling your name. Now let's move to the fun stuff, DPS classes. Alright, time to talk about Wind Knight. And if you've ever wanted to feel like an anime protagonist, this is your class. Wind Knight is pure aggression and speed. You're zooming around the battlefield with insane mobility, launching high-speed strikes, and here's the best part. You can literally leap into the air to dodge ground attacks. Boss doing some massive AoE slam? Just jump over it. You're built different. Here's the resource system. Wind Knight uses Courage. You start with 100 points max, and it recovers automatically at 3 points per second. You burn it on special attacks and certain expertise skills. Simple, clean, no complicated juggling acts. You just go fast. Now, Wind Knight has 2 specs, and they're both DPS monsters, just in different ways. The Vanguard spec. This spec is all about Gale Thrust as your special attack. The whole build revolves around one thing: spam Gale Thrust as much as humanly possible. You get increased courage generation, which means you're throwing out special attacks constantly. This spec delivers sustained damage, you're always attacking, better survivability through consistent pressure, up to 52% DPS increase on single targets, smoother energy regeneration, better crowd control. Think of this as the Unga Bunga but smart spec. You're aggressive, you're in their face, but you're not reckless. You've got the tools to stay alive while dealing disgusting damage over time. Perfect for boss fights where you need consistent DPS, players who like active, engaging combat, solo content where you need that balance of damage and survival. The Skyward spec. This spec is for players who looked at Wind Knight's aerial mobility and said, make that my entire personality. Your special attack is Skyfall. You leap into the air, charge up, and come crashing down like a meteor. It's so satisfying. This build focuses on burst damage, you delete health bars in seconds, smooth transitions between your 2 core skills, instant edge and Skyfall, boosted sharpness generation when using Skyfall, maximum style points. You're basically playing Devil May Cry in an MMO. Jump, charge, slam, repeat. Here's the trade-off. Your damage comes in bursts, not streams. Between your big moves, you've got higher skill downtime, so your overall DPS over a long fight might be slightly lower than Vanguard. Perfect for players who love high skill, high reward gameplay, burst damage windows, boss stagger phases, etc. Looking incredibly cool while playing. So, should you play Win Knight if you want that fast-paced mobile DPS experience? Absolutely. Vanguard spec is your pick if you want. Consistent, reliable damage, better overall performance in most content, easier resource management. Skyward spec is your pick if you want. Maximum burst potential, flashy, aerial combat, to feel like the main character. Honestly, both specs shred. Vanguard is more practical, Skyward is more fun. Pick based on your vibe. Next up, let's talk about the class that says, why punch things when you can shoot them from 50 meters away? Now, let's talk about Marksman, the class for people who believe the best defense is being nowhere near the danger. Marksman is your classic archer, but with a twist. You don't fight alone. You've got animal companions doing half the work for you. We're talking giant wolves that draw aggro and coordinate attacks, or trained falcons that swoop in to exploit enemy weaknesses. You're basically a Disney princess, except instead of singing, you're raining arrows on everything that moves. Here's the resource system. Marksman uses photon energy. Caps at 100 points. Once you fill it up and trigger a special attack, you enter Photon Reforge state. This is your power mode. Certain skills get enhanced effects, and you're outputting serious damage. The catch? Photon Reforge drains 25 energy per second, so you've got about 4 seconds of uptime. Then it ends, and you build it back up. Managing this cycle is crucial to maximizing your DPS. Now, Marksman has 2 specs, and they're basically asking, do you want a wolf or a bird? The first one is Wild Pack Special. This spec uses Storm Arrow as your special attack, and you fight alongside a giant wolf. Here's how it works. Your wolf draws enemy attention, basically mini-tanking for you, while you coordinate attacks together. When you hit Photon Reforge state, things go crazy. Storm Arrow fires more frequently. Your wolf attacks faster. You summon additional wolves and even phantom wolves. It's like you brought your whole squad to the fight. This build excels at burst damage. When everything aligns, you delete health bars, single target DPS, melting bosses is your specialty. Easier gameplay since your wolf tanks some aggro. This is the spec I recommend for most players. It's effective, it's fun, and having a giant wolf buddy never gets old. Next is Falconry spec. This spec uses double arrow as your special attack, and you fight alongside a falcon. The fantasy here is precision. Your falcon pinpoints enemy weaknesses, and every time you land a critical hit, the falcon swoops in for a coordinated strike. You're building around crit chance and crit damage, turning yourself into a deadly sniper. This build offers better AoE damage, great for mob packs, satisfying crit-based gameplay, maximum skill expression when you're landing crits consistently. Here's the problem. Early game, you don't have enough crit chance. Your falcon just sits there doing nothing half the time. This spec requires high crit to function, and you won't have that until you've got proper gear and talents leveled up. So should you play Marksman if you like ranged DPS and playing tactically from a distance? Yes. Beside that, Marksman is one of the easiest class in the game. Wild Pack spec is your pick if you want. Consistent, reliable damage, a companion that actually helps you survive. The best overall performance in most content falconry spec is your pick if you want. Better AoE for farming mob clearing, crit-focused gameplay, once you have the gear, something that scales harder in endgame pro tip. No matter which spec you choose, managing your photon energy cycles is everything. You need to time your Photon Reforge windows with your big damage phases. Master that, and you'll be topping DPS charts. Now, let's move to the class that said arrows are cool, but what if we just froze everything instead? Alright, let's talk about Frost Mage, the class for players who believe if it's not frozen, you're not trying hard enough. Frost Mage is your classic glass cannon mage. You're wielding a frost staff, delivering massive area damage, and controlling the battlefield with ice. You've got strong mobility to kite around, but here's the deal, you're squishy. You trade defense for damage, so if something gets in your face, you better hope it's already frozen. Here's the resource system. Frost Mage uses ice energy. You start with 50 points max, and it regenerates at 2 points per second. Pretty straightforward. You spend it on special attacks and your big expertise skills. Simple resource, devastating results. Now, Frost Mage has 2 specs, and they play very differently. First, the Icicle spec. This spec uses Frost Lance as your special attack, and it's all about sustained damage with mobility. Here's the magic. You generate frost crystals, and these bad boys let you bypass casting time on your special attack. So you're not standing still like a sitting duck. You're firing off instant cast nukes while moving. This build excels at single target damage. Melting bosses is your job. Critical damage enhancements. When you crit, things die. High mobility gameplay, kiting while dealing damage. Boss fights where positioning matters. Think of this as the I'm playing ranged DPS correctly spec. You're dancing around mechanics, never standing still, and pumping out consistent damage the entire time. Perfect for solo content where you need to stay mobile, boss fights with lots of mechanics, players who like active, skill-based gameplay. Next, Frostbeam spec. This spec uses Frostbeam as your special attack, and yes, it's literally just standing there channeling a giant ice laser beam. Pure Dragon Ball Z energy. You stack frost crystals to boost your special attack damage, then consume them to restore ice energy. It's all about maximizing that beam uptime and melting everything in front of you. This build offers insane AoE damage. You delete entire packs of enemies, big satisfying damage numbers, the fantasy of being a raid boss yourself. Here's the catch. This spec got nerfed in beta. Energy efficiency took a hit, so it's not as smooth as it used to be. We don't know if they'll buff it before full release, but right now, it's a bit clunky. Also important, this build scales hard with haste. More haste equals more damage ticks on your beam equals way higher DPS. So if you're not stacking haste, you're not maximizing the spec. So, should you play Frost Mage? If you want to blow things up from range and control the battlefield, hell yes. Icicle spec is your pick if you want. Consistent single target damage, high mobility and survivability through kiting, better performance in most content types. Frostbeam spec is your pick if you want. Maximum AoE damage for farming. That satisfying feeling of channeling a giant laser. To heavily invest in haste scaling, endgame optimization. My honest take? Icicle spec is more reliable right now. Frostbeam feels amazing when it's working, but the energy nerfs make it frustrating. Maybe that'll change, but until we see buffs, Icicle is the safer bet. Next up, the class that looked at swords and magic and said, why not both? Now let's talk about Stormblade, the edgelord class. And I say that with love. Stormblade is a melee DPS that wields a Reaper Scythe and seamlessly switches between two weapon forms. A Spectral Scythe for rapid fluid attacks, and a longsword for devastating charged strikes. You're basically playing Devil May Cry's style switching, but in an MMO, it looks incredible. The animations? Chef's kiss. The fantasy? Absolutely nailed. But here's where I need to be real with you. Here's the resource system. Stormblade uses Blade in 10, it stacks at 2 points per second. Once you hit 100, your special attack gets enhanced. Way faster casting speed and way more damage. It's all about timing that resource spend for maximum impact. Stormblade has two specs. First, the Iaido Slash spec. This spec is all about Iaido Slash. You accumulate Thunder Sigil and unleash single, massive strikes with your longsword. Think of it like playing a samurai anime. You're charging up, waiting for the perfect moment, then slash, big damage number, enemy deleted. This build focuses on burst single target damage, melting priority targets, Thunder Sigil resource management, high risk, high reward timing windows. When it works, it feels amazing. That one big hit dopamine is real. Next, the Moonstrike special. This spec uses Moonstrike as your special attack. You consume 3 Thunder Sigils to summon a Moonblade that links with your Scythe Wheel attacks. You're switching into Spectral Scythe form and performing rapid, fluid combos while your Moonblade assists you. This build excels at AoE damage, shredding mob packs, sustained output with summoned Moonblades, faster, more active combat flow. It's less about one big hit and more about constant pressure. So, should you play Stormblade? Okay, here's the honest truth, and I need you to hear this. Stormblade is currently one of the weakest DPS classes in early game and low gear score conditions. Why? Because in beta, they nerfed Thunder Sigil generation, and Thunder Sigil is crucial to both specs. Without it, your resource economy falls apart, your sustained damage tanks, and you're just struggling. Iaido Slash spec suffers from inconsistent burst windows. Moonstrike spec can't maintain Moonblade uptime effectively. Does this mean you shouldn't play it? Not necessarily. If you love the aesthetic and don't care about meta, are willing to wait for buffs, because let's be real, they need to fix this, want to main it for endgame when gear compensates, then go for it. The class will get better with gear and hopefully balance patches. But if you're asking, what should I play for my first character, or what's strong right now, I can't in good conscience recommend Stormblade. You'll have a rough time early on, and there are just better options for DPS. Play it if you love it, but know what you're getting into. Alright, let's move to the classes that keep everyone alive. Support. Alright, time to talk about Verdant Oracle, the class for people who get a dopamine hit from seeing green health bars go up. Verdant Oracle is your nature-themed healer. You're wielding a nature ring, channeling the power of the forest to keep your team alive and buffed. Think druid vibes, vines, flowers, nature magic, the whole aesthetic. You've got long-range healing, so you're not stuck in melee range getting smacked around. You can position safely and still keep everyone topped off. Here's the resource system. Verdant Oracle uses energy, caps at 100 points, regenerates at 4 per second. You spend it on special attacks and key expertise skills. Pretty straightforward for a healer. No crazy juggling required. Now, Verdant Oracle has 2 specs, and this is where you choose your healing philosophy. The Smite spec. This spec specializes in Wild Bloom, and here's the twist. You're dealing damage while healing. You summon vines that strike enemies and heal your allies at the same time. You're not just a heal bot sitting in the back. You're actively contributing to DPS while keeping the team alive. Based on beta calculations, this spec's healing plus shields nearly match Lifebind's pure healing output. So you're not actually sacrificing that much healing for the damage you gain. This build excels at AoE scenarios, healing multiple allies while hitting multiple enemies, significant damage output bonuses for the team, more engaging active gameplay. The catch? This spec requires deeper understanding and precise skill rotation. You need to know when to DPS and when to focus heal. It's higher skill floor, but way higher skill ceiling. Perfect for experienced support players, late game content where optimization matters, players who get bored just healing. The Lifebind spec. This spec specializes in Life Bloom. You sacrifice all your damage capability for maximum healing output. You're the classic pocket healer fantasy. Your entire job is keeping health bars full and providing powerful buffs. No distractions, just pure support. This build offers consistent, smooth healing with high baseline output. Simple, straightforward gameplay, perfect for all content phases. The downside? Limited offensive utility. You're not contributing to DPS at all. In an organized group, that's fine, but in random parties, sometimes that extra damage helps. Perfect for new support players learning the role. Consistent, reliable healing in all content. Players who want to purely focus on keeping allies alive. So, should you play Verdant Oracle? If you want to play support and be the backbone of your team, absolutely. Smite spec is your pick if you want. More engaging, dynamic gameplay. To contribute damage while healing, higher potential in late game optimization. Lifebind spec is your pick if you want. Maximum consistent healing output. Simpler, more relaxed gameplay. To never worry about your team dying. My honest take? Smite spec is way more fun and actually performs just as well in most content. But if you're new to support roles or just want a chill experience, Lifebind is perfectly viable. Now let's talk about the other support, the one that literally plays music while you fight. And finally, let's talk about Soul Musician, the newest support class in Star Resonance, and honestly, one of the most unique support classes I've seen in an MMO. You're wielding a guitar as a weapon. Yes, a guitar. You're literally playing rock concert support, healing your team, buffing them, and dealing damage all through the power of music. If you've ever wanted to be a bard that actually feels impactful, this is it. Here's the resource system. And buckle up because there are 3. Peaceful Tune. This is your passive healing aura. Whenever you deal damage, you restore HP equal to 20% of that damage, split evenly among up to 5 allies. So you're passively healing just by attacking. It's genius design. Performance energy, required for your melody skills, heroic melody and healing melody. Regenerates at 1 point per second. This is your active skill resource. Performance passion, required to perform music. Regenerates 1 point every 5 seconds. This gates your big performances. It sounds complicated, but once you get the rhythm, pun intended, it flows naturally. Soul Musician has 2 specs. The Dissonance Special. This spec uses Amplified Beat as your special attack, and it's all about balancing damage with healing. Heroic Melody enhances your damage and healing conversion efficiency. Your talents let Rhapsody of Flame double your luck chance for frequent damage and healing spikes. The core talent here is Passionate Dream. It enables free special attacks, so you're constantly cycling through your kit. Sounds great, right? Here's the problem. This spec currently underperforms. The shooting and healing have limitations that make it clunky. You're trying to do two things at once and you end up doing both okay instead of one thing great. Maybe future buffs will fix this, but right now, it's not the move. Next is Concerto Spec. This spec uses Healing Beat as your special attack, and it's all about coordinated performance between healing melody and your speaker. This is the meta pick for Soul Musician, and for good reason. Strong team buffs through attribute resonance, solid healing output that keeps your team alive, critical strike bonuses that boost your team's DPS, smooth, efficient skill rotation. You're not just healing, you're making your entire team stronger. DPS players love you because you're boosting their damage. Tanks love you because you're keeping them alive. Everyone wins. This spec focuses on efficient skill rotation and energy management. Once you nail the timing, you become an absolute powerhouse support. So, should you play Soul Musician if you want to play support with a unique playstyle? Yes. But here's the real talk. Play Concerto Spec. Dissonance is underperforming right now, and there's no reason to handicap yourself. Concerto offers meta-level performance, strong healing and buffing, team-wide impact that everyone appreciates, engaging gameplay that doesn't feel like a healbot Soul Musician versus Verdant Oracle. Verdant Oracle equals more straightforward healing, nature aesthetic. Soul Musician equals more complex, focuses on team buffs, music aesthetic. Both are viable. Pick based on which fantasy appeals to you more.